Type. The domain, as you said, it's correct. The domain here, if you look at all these points coming from, I don't know, coming from where? From infinity, minus infinity, so from positive infinity, right? And the x's are decrease, and the x here become negative. -1, stop at -1, and then become increasing again until it becomes positive again, go to infinity. So what the domain of the values of x? As you can see, the lowest value in x is -1. Here is the 0 here, and here is the -1. So the lowest value of x is -1, and the biggest value, this is to the end of the graph, right? If there is more, and there is more grid, then there will be more. So that means it's endless here. It's going here endless, doesn't stop. So it's going to infinity. Okay, that's why the domain here, which are the values of x, is coming from -1 and all the way to infinity. Okay, and we write this is in interval notation, so this will be -1 included and infinity not included. You can write the domain also as the values of x. You can write it as inequality like this. Okay, that's another way of writing it. Okay, as inequality. So this is the domain as interval notation, and this is the domain as inequality. Now, if I ask about the range, look at the values of y. Y is high, and you don't know where it's coming from. Maybe also, exactly, it's coming from -infinity down, and then becomes 0, and then become positive, and then the y increase until infinity. So it's coming from -infinity to infinity here, the y. So that's why the domain, the range is all real numbers, basically. The range, you can say it is from -infinity to infinity, okay? Or you can just say it's all real numbers. Okay, any value can be, the value of y, positive or negative. If x increase very much, then the y also can be high positive value or high negative value. So it's important to know the domain and the range, how to get it from the graph. It's very simple. It is just the horizontal span of the curve, this is the domain, and the vertical span of the curve, this is the range. That's it. Clear? Any question about this example? Any question about this example? Another example like this. Suppose I have, let's go to another example. Suppose I have this circle here, okay? Let's just have a circle, small circle here. And suppose this is -5, this is 5, and this is 5, this is -5. Now, what is the domain? The domain are the values of x. There's a lot of values of x here, right? So all these values, what is the lowest value of x? What is the highest value of x? -5 to 5, right? So that's it. That's the domain. The domain is from -5 to 5, and of course, because this point already is -5, so it's included. This is already also included. So bracket and bracket. How about the range? The range. Look here also. The values of y go all the way up to 5 and all the way down to -5. There's no more below -5, and there's no more above 5. So we can say also the range here is what? The range? The same thing. The range is also from -5 to 5. Okay? Clear that? One more example. Suppose I have this point here, approximately 2, okay? Or I can give you the coordinates of this point. Suppose 5, so this is 5 and 2, for example. Now I'm asking you, what is the domain and range here? The domain are the values of x, and x, as you can see, is coming from -infinity going all the way to infinity, right? So the domain here would be what? Yeah, all real numbers, which you can just say from -infinity to infinity, or you can just say all real numbers. How about the range? The range is the vertical span. Look at the span vertically of the curve. Start from where, going where? Start from 2 all the way to infinity. And it's high, and it comes all the way down to 2, and then go up again high, right? So it doesn't go below here. All the points can be anything above 2, including the 2 itself. So that's why you can write the range. You can write the range like this, that y is greater than or equal to 2, or we can say it's from 2 to infinity as interval notation. Okay? So that's the domain and range. Very important. Simple concept, very important. A lot of people sometimes get confused here. Let's see another example, because a lot of people still, even though this is very easy, but people sometimes get confused. Yeah, question?
The domain is
from -infinity to infinity, because here this is extending all the way from coming from -infinity, this is going all the way to infinity. Yeah, this curve here doesn't end here. This curve is actually continuing here and continuing here. Okay? Let's see another example. Suppose this value, for example, is 2 also, and this value is minus 2. Okay, now what is the domain and the range? The domain, exactly, yes, from minus infinity to infinity, because as you can see, this curve coming from the values of x coming from minus infinity going all the way to infinity, and this is also the same. So we can just say that the domain is also from minus infinity to infinity. How about the range? Look at the values of y. The values are very high, come all the way down to 2. It doesn't come any lower. You just have to go up again, right? So it has to be greater than 2, exactly, it's greater than 2. So this part, y is greater than 2, or equal to 2. How about the other part? There's another part here. How about the y here? The y here is minus 2 or low, right? This is minus 2 or low. Cannot be minus 1, cannot go above, right? It's minus 2 or smaller. So we can write this as y smaller than or equal to minus 2. Okay, so that means you have 2 parts for the y. One part above 2 or equal to 2, the other part smaller than or equal to minus 2. Okay, so that's why we can write it as an equality like this. It's either here. Or you can write it also, this is now the range. Okay, this is the range. Okay. Or you can also write it as interval notation. How do you write this as interval notation? The range. Another way of writing the range. We can say from 2 to infinity, right? Union. What is the other one? Start from where? From minus 2. Start from the smaller. Who is the smaller? Yeah, exactly. Minus infinity is smaller. So we start from this smaller first, and then the biggest is minus 2. Yes. Okay. And this always open. We use parentheses, and this is closed, which use bracket. Okay, so we can write the range like this. Any question about how I wrote the range here? Any question about how I wrote the range here? Are you sure? Okay.